There we go. Right, start the recording. Let's talk about the challenge for today. So when we're talking about biggest challenges, what I realized was the biggest challenge of all is that change management is not recognized as a value service. Maybe that's the challenge. We have to get to a position where we are seen as something that absolutely creates value. Off the back of one of the October events where we had the in-group and Kieran Stevens coming in and talking about employment opportunities in UK and European markets for change people and how tough the market is right now. Certainly, I've been contacted by lots of people who are currently out of contract. I've been contacted by change teams who've been let go by their own organisations. And the underlying assumption is that either change management is sort of optional, it's not that important. So where we need to make a cut, we can get the change people to go. Or another assumption, well, it's all to do with projects and stuff, so the project manager can do it. So a real lack of appreciation of the difference between perhaps tangible creation of change, the deliverables from projects, and the behavioural change cycle and how we help people adjust emotionally and psychologically to adopting new ways of working. We're just not winning that argument. And so we are sort of seeing in a tough market, and I raise this because I'm old enough to have been through various sort of tough markets. This is not a formal recession by any stretch of the imagination, but when people are looking at trying to get greater efficiencies and economies, every single time it is those people working in change that are hit the hardest. So it's an ongoing campaign, and I put it up as our biggest challenge because on every session that we've been running this year at the Change Capability community, you as a community will always turn it back to examples of where you are not valued in your own organisation. So I'm raising right now, okay, so what is it that we need to do about that? And I'm also putting some of this into the survey results from the Change Capability community, where, to be honest, the diagram I'm sharing with you now came out of that realization that having read the results so often, it's just amazing that they're the overall core theme that comes out of the Global Change Capability Survey is that we are just not valued. So what are the factors? What are the missing pieces? I'm going to put forward a hypothesis, and you are going to go into your breakout room with this one question, which is, what's your action plan for building the value of change in your organisation? A great opportunity to network and share ideas with others. So these are some of the things that I've identified. I think that, that's a very strange box. Activities are not delivering commercial value. I think that is the issue, that we are not linking that what we do in helping people through the adoption of a new way of doing things, we are not the essential glue that holds things together and leads to the realization of benefits. So a change may take place which reduces costs or increases revenue, improves reputation, customer satisfaction, or staff engagement. But all of the activities on our change plan, where people can see that there's a lot of things happening and we're very busy, but we are not talking about the value that leads to. We are not making the link between what we do and the benefits that are created. And there, I think, are some bigger themes there about the fact that we are not good at identifying data. We don't identify the data that we should be tracking. We're not good at tracking and measuring the data that helps prove our value. So there's a whole piece here on that, putting ourselves in much more commercial terms. And I think that also leads to the fact that without some of that emphasis on benefits, we're not doing enough around the wider portfolio, prioritise changes to ensure impact does not lower sort of operational ability. Again, there's a lot of change activity taking place, but we're just not making the discussion that actually we probably shouldn't be doing quite as much of this as we are. Maybe we've got too many changes on the go. Let's look across all of the changes that we've got and query whether or not we should be adding more to this right now. So there is something here around we don't talk about the benefits. We don't talk about the risk to the benefits. If we do multiple changes, perhaps we are going to risk the benefits of the changes we're currently doing. I think all of these sort of flow together in that this lack of emphasis on the commerciality, the commercial value of what we do, leads us to perhaps not having the evidence that says, hey, it would be very dangerous if we add yet another change to this and spread people too thinly. And not having the benefits also means that perhaps our senior leaders don't see their involvement of change as a core priority. They don't connect championing the change, really effective sponsorship, with the financial improvements that are part of what their performance managed on. We're not talking in terms of data and evidence of the value we create. Therefore, they don't see that alignment between, well, we've got to make this change happen and creating the increase in revenue or decrease in costs. They are still stuck. And I've done numerous senior leadership briefings in the last 3 weeks where the same point has come up. Every time I talk about, hey, tangible change is the project management bit. And you know that you're looking at your project managers and you're saying, are you on time? Are you on budget? Are you creating things that pass their test criteria? That's the bit of the sponsorship that you're doing. Are you asking all the questions about how's the impact in terms of getting people involved in the change? Are they starting to be aware of what they need to change? Have they started practicing that? Are we actually training on that? Are people feeling that there is a general readiness for them to start working in the new way? Are you asking any of those questions across the business? And are you asking them in a consistent and systematic way? And honestly, the feedback I'm getting is just like, what? Didn't know about that. I end up talking about plane and runway. The projects are building the plane, but you haven't built the runway for the plane to land on. So again, there's a piece here around the runway is the conduit to creating the benefits. Right? We've got the passengers back on the ground and everybody's happy. So I think there is an entire thing about how we talk about what value we create. I think senior leadership lack of involvement spreads out wider. If senior leaders aren't genuinely sponsoring and championing something, then we don't get that legitimacy to invest in the training and to develop the capability and therefore build up the resource pool of people who are able to lead themselves and lead the people around them through change. So things like a network of change agents or change champions is seen as sort of an interesting activity, but not something that is business essential. But we know it's business essential. So we do it on a shoestring. All of that involvement in change management is done at the side of the desk. If I had to pick a phrase, by the way, for 2024 in terms of change, I would say that based on the volume of people who quote it back to me, they are saying, yeah, but we're getting that done at the side of the desk. In other words, that it's a best efforts basis, it's totally voluntary, and it's a nice to have. So we don't have that that investment in capability building. We get some people who are, within organizations where their learning and development or their HR functions are really on it and are actually helping them to build training and coaching around change management. But that, again, is sort of more optional than anything, which is really sad. What shocked me, and I'll give you the link to the results of the change capability survey, but what's really shocked me is how we are perhaps leaving the door wide open to problems in change because we don't have a simple, intuitive sort of approach to change. We have some tools like impact assessments, readiness assessments that make sense to those of us in change, but we're not simplifying them so that local managers can actually be what Professor John Cotter started to refer to as the volunteer army of change people across an organisation. We know, because as a community, we've been talking about it this year, that on average, you as a change professional in your organization. If you are a permanent employee, you might be working in a change function that has 2 or 3 other colleagues, and you're kind of expected to carry the changes for the organization. If you are a consultant working in change, you might have been hired to support a project or program or part of a transformation, but you're probably quite lonely, that you're on your own. You might have a colleague, but that's about it. So we know that there's a volume issue, but we want that volunteer army. We need that volunteer army, and yet how can we create a wide capability for change if we don't have a simple approach that everybody can follow? And the other thing in the survey is that actually the idea that we're going back and updating it with the lessons learned, well, about half the respondents said that they were. And again, half the respondents said that they're tracking whether or not their approach is being followed. I'm thinking, good grief, that leaves the door wide open. If only half of us are checking whether or not the actual change management framework, change management toolkit that we have is actually being used, isn't that sending a message that change is kind of it's an optional thing, it's kind of informal, you might want to follow this framework, you might not? Can't see that happening for other professional disciplines within organizations. Finance don't sort of say, oh, we have an approach, but oh well, it's up to you whether or not you want to follow the expenses policy. We just don't do it, do we? And yet in change we do. And finally, one of the more strategic themes this year is that change needs to be a positive experience. It's all very well focusing in on the achievement of change. Is it delivering the benefits expected? But for many people involved in the bigger transformations, they won't ever experience those benefits because they probably would have left or changed jobs before that transformation finally lands. So the benefits are unlikely to inspire their action and their commitment. But what can do that is that they are having a positive experience of change. And positive experience means that they are being treated with respect, their contribution is valued. So there's a lot there in empowerment and enabling people some autonomy over how they make the change happen. So I think those are the factors that I've identified as, if you like, on my action plan, things that I need to spend more time making happen in 2025 if I am to boost the view that change is actually, it's an essential, not a nice to have, it's a valuable service, and that it actually contributes to what's going on. I don't know what you think about that, but that's what the breakout rooms are all about. So what I'm going to do is just put you into some rooms here. I think I'm going to put you into 4 rooms so that there's even more in the rooms to talk to each other about. So what I'm going to do is looking at, it's 20 past now. And as we know, it's always good to have a really good conversation and also get great feedback when you come back. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to set the discussion time, if it lets me. There we go. It's actually letting me to 15. I think I can do that for 17 minutes. So you've got time to introduce yourselves to each other. Pick something that you think, yeah, actually, that's maybe something I want to talk about, something I want to get on the action plan. You might want to have somebody in your group who takes some notes so that you can share those with others when you get back. But what I will do when you get back is facilitate a conversation where we come back with our own ideas. So it's all about sharing your ideas to the other groups, as well as having a great conversation within your group. Are you happy with that? Yeah? Go and network. Go and introduce yourselves. Go and build up your peer network. I'll see you in a little bit. Hopefully it's now shifting you into rooms. Yes, there we go. Any issues? You're not, Sophie, you're not in a room. Sam, you're not in a room.
No, I don't seem to be in a room.
Okay, all right. Okay, let me go back to the rooms and see if we can, for some reason, we'll manually assign you to the rooms then, don't worry. Okay, all right. It's not letting, you are all coming up as, yeah, you're all coming up as issues. Hang on a sec. Let me change your state. Yeah, let me change your status. I'm having to change your status and see if I can, off the back of that, assign you. So 1 second. It's because you're outside of attendee, change, make an attendee, change. Let's see if that enables me to get you in there. Hang on a sec, assign participants. Nope, still coming up as a problem. What you might want to do is I'll just try another trick. Otherwise, I will leave you to discuss it.
I think it's a web version of Teams, not a work version of it.
Right, that might be it. So I'm just going to try making you a presenter and seeing if that makes a difference. Let's see if, yeah. Let's see if I can see if that makes a difference. If it doesn't, then I'll leave you to discuss in your own groups here. No, it doesn't. Okay, well, there you go. The three of you, I will step away while you have your own discussion. You're in a smaller group yourselves. Okay, enjoy.
That's all right. Well, that's easy enough. Hi there.
Hi.
So, I don't know if you can see. Yes, so my name is Sophie Rena. One of the reasons why it might be that I'm on a web version is I'm not working at the moment, so this is a personal Teams, and probably just a bit mean. I can tell you a bit about myself, or we can just go around quickly, and then should I say a little bit about myself?
Yeah, it would be nice.
So I've worked in change for about 15 years, but probably not change management, only about 3 or 4 years. So I've mainly done change comms, but I was doing a lot of change management informally. So I've worked on a lot of large transformation programs in sort of FTSE 100 companies. So lots of experience in PMO, leading work streams. All this resonates. So over to someone else.
Where are you based, Sophie?
In London.
London.
Good.
Sam,
Do you want me to go next? Or April, do you want to go next?
No, it's okay, go on.
Okay, so yeah, don't be fooled. My name is not Sam. I'm just using my husband's account to log in. Probably that's part of the issue. But I'm Edith. I've been working in change for about 10 years now. So I've been working mainly as a contractor, different companies, different projects, but mainly system implementations. So yeah, I'm almost on to my next assignment. So yeah, anything else you guys want to know? I'm also in London.
Jill, are you joining us, our group? Yeah, we cannot hear you. You are muted. You are muted. No,
Gillian, you're muted. We can't hear you.
I'm back to putting things on mute. What am I doing? Yeah, sorry, I was late coming into the call because I was just trying to solve a change problem in an organisation I'm working with. So I tend to jump from one thing to another. So.
Okay. So what happened on our end is Melanie formed some groups, and the three of us couldn't be allocated to the groups for some reason. That's why we are discussing among ourselves, the three of us. And you know the topics anyway, because you would be the part of the conversation. I'm Ebru, and I've been a management consultant for like 20 years, but in the last 2 years, I was very involved in the change management projects, which I fell in love because I've always been in love with the people side of the projects that I managed. And now I'm trying to move my career path entirely into the change, leaving the like more market advice and then more change type of thing. Okay, so shall we go with the questions?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, every single one of these, like I said, really resonated with me and the challenges. I don't know how we want to do it as a team, whether we want I don't know if in the breakouts you have a whiteboard or anything, but we don't have a whiteboard, so one of us is just going to have to take a few notes. But any thoughts about how we want to approach it? Do we want to go per bucket, or do we want to maybe turn it around and kind of put in some additional sort of our thoughts rather than just follow Melanie's? Because I mean, I think we all, I personally really agree with everything that she says, but I've also got another way of looking at it. So anyone else have any thoughts?
I think you can start with your new ideas.
Yeah, I think new ideas are always
And
open.
Kim, I'm very sorry I didn't ask you. We all introduced ourselves and I didn't know if you were going to join us or not. Perhaps not. Sophie, your ideas?
Oh, right. Oh, is Gillian going to talk about what has to just introduce herself? Because
Okay, I'm quite happy to introduce myself if that helps you. So Jill Perry, I do a lot of work with Mel. I also do a lot of consultancy work with organisations and go in there just helping them practically implement a change project. So one of the big ones I'm on at the moment is a big SAP project. I also work in organisation design, so recently finished a big OD project. So lots of different types of projects that I just get involved in.
Thank you.
And then there's Sadaf.
And Sadaf's, I just let him in, so I think you joined the call late, so probably won't know what we're doing.
Yes, I just joined now. I'm sorry, I was stuck up in another meeting. And
okay, I'm going to leave.
like,
Now
okay.
you've got Sadaf in the room. I'm
Yeah.
just going to let you carry on being in the group because you've got another about 8 minutes to go before you finish off. Okay.
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 Do I have?
Well, we haven't got
Yeah.
much time.
Yeah.
So my thought, the reason I was on LinkedIn and posting this morning, commenting, and something I'm hearing again and again in the change management community is something along the lines of change management is dead. And I think it's coming out of the fact that, as Melanie explained, the context is very difficult, it's very challenging, and businesses aren't buying into change management in the way that perhaps they would in a better environment. And it's where there's also a lot of thought around toolkits. Prozai's getting quite a tough time at the moment. Lots of people having a go at Prozai. I noticed Tim Creasy is, being very defensive. Do we think change management is dead, and why? So it is about the valued service, and if change, where does change management, would be my question, fit in an organizational design? Because it feels like it hasn't really found its place.
Can I comment on this? Because I've seen some posts like you did on the, there's a guy, change management is dead, and agile is dead, and whatever, like the tombstones.
Yeah.
And
it was the same
I was
post.
thinking, but then when you read the post, the advertising, the PR is really attractive, unfortunately, but nobody reads the details under this, or fewer people reads the post. And when you read it, I see his point, because he's saying exactly what Melanie said. I mean, everybody's like, oh, okay, I'm going to apply this methodology, this tool, whatever I learned, but then changes people. This is why I fall in love with this thing. Everything is people. And unfortunately, the only official thing that is governing the people side of the organizations is the HR, where HR, I genuinely believe that they are not least only interested in employees' benefits. So, but then what I believe is to remove the negative impact of the change management in people's perceptions is to emphasize the impact of the people. Like, people are the tools or the building bricks of any organization, regardless of its profession or context or sector. And everybody says, okay, this is the implementing, this is the new tool, whatever, and you must have it somehow.
So I've responded exactly in that way, Ebru. Is there a point that we can make, because we're so short of time, where we say, in a way, we're not doing ourselves any favors in how we approach change, in the sense that we come armed with the ProSci, the ADKAR, the APMG, you know, various different toolkits and approaches. And you know, we throw out a sort of, I've seen 100 slide decks that, you know, I've picked up from predecessors, rather than going in and really maybe not even having a deck at all, but just going and talking to people. Are we not selling ourselves correctly when we actually go into a project? Could that be one reason why the business isn't valuing us? We're perhaps not selling ourselves in the right way.
I think so. I think I might say I have an example where I went into an organization which didn't have change management at all. They had no understanding of change management, and most people thought, oh, it wasn't even necessary for me to be there. But I think, as Melanie said, if you demonstrate the value, and that made that organization to adopt change. Now they've got a change function. All the projects are done with change in mind, because they've seen the value. As Ebru said, it's bringing people on that change journey. So if you can demonstrate that value, I think it will quieten even the greatest critics.
And it's demonstrating the value right at the start when you come in.
Yeah.
Rather than waiting for the moment when the benefits are realized, because again, you know, that takes time, and quite often practically a change manager might not be there right at the end when the benefits are realized. So it's perhaps, is there something around how we present and sell ourselves at the beginning of a program?
I think
And
it's both
also-
ways. Even when you start and you sell yourself, but there'll still be some critics who want to see it in motion, and you know, you just demonstrating how change fits in everything. And I believe even, you know, with coaching as well, people who are not privy to change, and you know, demonstrating the value that way, I think that will help.
I've been on for ages. I have a problem with the term change management, and I have problems with it in lots of reasons. One is that when we go and say we're a change manager, we're going into a project, there's almost an immediate thought that you're the change manager, you'll do it. A bit like you're the computer programmer, you'll program it, so therefore you're the change manager, you'll do it. And I don't think we can. It needs the organisation to come together and help us do it. So, you know, I feel sometimes like I'm a bit like a conductor in an orchestra. I'm kind of suggesting the things we should be doing, but actually the music's not coming from me, it's coming from the orchestra, it's coming from the people who do it. So I think there's a problem there. And I also think change management has got another title in a lot of projects as well, where the people who are managing the system changes have a change management bit. And I have a change management bit in terms of changing the way the project is, changing the way the people's perceptions of the project, the kind of overall organisational change bit. And people get confused about what we do. And when we bring people in with a bit of change in their role, they really aren't clear what to do. So I think to make it a valued service, we've got to get better at defining what it is really early on in the projects.
Gosh, totally agree.
I agree with this. In addition, I can't say that every project is change. Like in every project, we are also doing the change management anyway from the people side, because we are organizing people into the mindset, right? I mean, obviously, change manager cannot do the change himself or herself. I genuinely agree with what you are saying. The other thing that I want to add on top of it is, I think we should clearly emphasize the importance of people and the feelings. And I think today's all these diversity, inclusion, like every type of like human centric values, we can use them to our benefit to emphasize the importance of people in the companies. And also, like, the main thing that change gets important is the fear factor. We are in such a fast forward moving technology and IT is like everything is changing, whether people accept or not. In like even not a decade, in 5 years, I think we'll be at a very, very different position, and the technology, the AI and everything will take place of many things, which I think if we can create the urgency in change tool terms in the seniors' minds on like what is expecting them and how we can support them in keeping their people still very much effective and efficient in their organization, adding value rather than, oops, everybody's here now.
Wow. That was quite abrupt.
I do love Teams, don't you?
Agree,
we
Every.
had a small group here that never actually got into Teams because they were on a web version, I think. But hopefully it's given you a chance. After all, the point of these sessions is not just to answer the question that we pose, but also to meet each other. And what we're going to do now is I'm going to collect in the moments of genius that you're having. So I know we've got a transcript going, but we're also going to add in a slide of all your text. So my plan right now is to just go around the teams and really hear what you have to say about the value of change management. Can you see my slides? Can you see me typing away?
Yeah.
Excellent.
Yep.
Well, that's good. That's a start. Okay, so anybody want to pick up the story?
Can I just add one more thing? It's just to, it's continuation of what we were discussing before. Can we as a group collectively come up with a leaner version of, how to pitch ourselves? I think this is where we lack. It's because the rest of the theory falls into place. Everybody will buy into that. Everybody with a functional brain. It's all about people. We're enablers. It's our pitch. That's where we are falling. People don't even pay us the attention, the initial, 30 seconds. If we don't get the attention, we are sidelined. So regardless of whatever gimmicks we have, whatever tools we, if it's, AdCard or whatever we have, nobody's listening to us. That's where we're lacking. And I've experienced that in my own career.
I
So
think that was
is this the elevator pitch for change management?
Yes. And we
How
all
do we
need to
define
be
ourselves? Yeah.
yes. And how do we introduce ourselves? How do we, because when we waffle, I've come across everyone, when we start explaining ourselves, we all waffle when it comes to explaining, what change is all about. And that's where we lose the audience. And I think that is, if we fix that, the rest, we already have the tools.
It's very interesting. Would anybody like to build on that point? Anybody come up with something similar in their own rooms? Sujata, over to you.
Yeah, thanks, Melanie. Actually, the point that was just raised about elevator pitch, it takes us back to the topic at hand, that is value of change management, of course, because the only way of grabbing attention of senior leadership, maybe in the first 30 seconds or first minute of the conversation, is if you talk about the benefits. What is the value that you're delivering? So if we speak in numbers, so that's where change can show, and can show the importance of why change should be non-negotiable. And yes, the system or the project managers have the numbers in place because they can talk about the benefits of the system. They talk about they talk about whatever percentage increase in productivity, etc. So similarly, I think change talks about the industry statistics about why projects either go over budget or they, why the project timelines are never met, why the, the envisioned benefits are never realized. And those could be the first 30 seconds of the elevator pitch. And then you build on with the numbers that the project team has come up with and show how you would be supporting and, bringing that to reality.
You can probably see on the screen there that I've put some examples there. By the way, please put your cameras on because we are a community. So we're trying to make sure that everybody can feel they're connected to another human being. I just put in there that, as you say, you've got 1 minute to maybe talk to senior leaders, and it's numbers that get their attention. A very simple piece that we can all start to adopt is in terms of what is the value, what is the cost to the business of this change failing? And that is of two costs. It's the cost of the change itself. And let's make sure that that wraps in the tangible change, i.e. the project costs, plus the cost of the lost opportunity. As soon as you do that, you are starting to talk about hundreds of thousands of pounds, or I know several colleagues on this call are actually working on multi-million pound initiatives, where, for example, the cost of the change is a lock-in to a large technology provider of several £million a year of license fees. And yet, if we do not get the cost savings, the efficiency savings that we're expecting, then that is money that's just gone down the drain. And I think by starting to talk about that, and also the cost of the lost opportunity, that actually all of our competitors are seeing the impact of greater efficiency. And we can then start to talk about the change management activities are a very small percentage of that cost, because we do know that change management activities are not that expensive, because the resource pool often is sunk costs. We're already paying the salary of people. There might well be some backfill costs, there might well be some training costs, but they are not that huge. And so, but I just don't think we immediately go to that very simple equation, which is cost of the business, the change failing is the cost of the change plus the cost of the lost opportunity. The combination of that immediately starts to talk about figures. And then you come along and talk about a lot lower figure. So yeah, that would be something worth doing. I've got Sian, then I've got Sophie. So Sian, over to you.
Thank you. We're just building on what you've both been saying, really. What I was talking about is something that our senior leaders ask for, which is a return on investment. What is the return on investment for everything I spend on change? And I do have a colleague that's been working something out on an Excel spreadsheet, which is a lot cleverer than me, but it's based on research along the lines of, if you don't use change management, then X percentage of projects will fail. And therefore, if you do use change management, that you have a greater chance of success. But I do think for that elevator pitch, you just need to have something that you can say, that you can back up with science, you can back up with research, because otherwise, I think we all agreed, change management is seen as a bit of a fluffy thing in the background. We just need to be tougher about selling it, I think.
I think we do. I mean, there's the common one, which annoys some change purists. Let's call them purists. Where if I talk about the old McKinsey figures, around 70% of change initiatives fail. But if you're using that kind of research, I use a more up-to-date one, which interests me hugely, which is that for every 1% increase in staff engagement, we see a 1.9% increase in customer satisfaction. Now that is interesting, because we have the opportunity in change to either engage or in fact lose key staff. So that enables me to talk about perhaps, as you said, fluffy, the welfare aspects of good change management, putting that into some kind of financial benefit, in that we're talking here directly linking into Net Promoter Score with the increase in customer satisfaction. And there is a lot of research that links Net Promoter Score back to the value to the business. So we can start to tie ourselves into other areas where there is better financial data, perhaps. Something to think about. Yeah. Sophie, over to you.
Yeah, I mean, you pretty well answered my question, because what I was going to say about the costs to the business of the change failing is that we are only one very small part of that change. So it's how do you then extrapolate the direct correlated benefits that a change manager brings as opposed to project manager, because any senior leader is going to go, well, yeah, sure, if the whole change falls down, then we'll blame it on the project manager or the program manager. So that's the challenge that I have, is those absolute people focused sort of benefits to the business and return on investment to the business.
Leading to return on investment. Yeah, it's
that's challenging.
Yeah,
it is. That direct correlation between me, the change manager, and the actual value of the program either working or not.
Yeah. I think when I'm looking at making that direct correlation, I will then go down back into the avoid or mitigate the risks, because as soon as I start to get into it, it's a bit hard. What I can't, because I think there is more there's more sort of analysis, that's the word I'm looking for, between avoiding risks and cost to the business. Examples would be staff churn. We reduce risk that staff leave. I think that there's operational chaos in that customers not being serviced when things go wrong. Ask anyone who's where a system has failed its implementation. I mean, British Airways earlier this week, for example, customer, that chaos that we've made a change and it's not quite working. So I think there's anything in there where you can say there's the risks that something might go wrong. I was working with procurement recently on the risk of loss of key suppliers. You think, really, we're going to lose our suppliers? Yes. If you make a change where they think, well, actually, you're now harder to service, we've got lots of other customers, the cost of servicing you doesn't work, we're going to walk away. So even an impact on supply chain, I think there's something there about risk. So I think let's start thinking much more in terms of if we don't exist, right, what would go wrong? We know this, but do we talk about it?
No.
So answer the question. If we do not exist, what will go wrong? And then cost these things out for the business, because instead of trying to, it's a completely different way of looking at it, isn't it? Which is, instead of trying to put a value on the lovely things that we do, why don't we put a value on the absence of what we do? So value the absence of what we do. That might be easier in some cases. So value the absence of what we do. Yeah.
Yep.
Excellent. Okay. I think I've got Sadaf coming back, and I'm just trying to make sure that other groups, please put your hands up. Yeah, we're several other groups, so I just want to make sure that everybody's having a chance to say. So please throw your hand up when you want to put a comment in, because this is your community, not mine. So
yeah,
off to you, Sadaf.
Thank you. I just wanted to add that, in terms of when we're talking about benefit realization, the practice that I've been following is that I work on Microsoft projects, right? So they're usually big, massive projects. Yeah. And the way I've been pitching myself is, as soon as we have the goals defined and the vision of, of any change initiative defined, you link it straight to how it is, people dependent. If it's, what percentage you require, for it to be successful, dependent on people. And that's where you can build in your return on investment and benefit realization. And you can pitch in to say, if we are not on the project, this is what you're going to lose. Yes, your project team, your tech team, project managers can look at the technical side of things, but who is going to look at the people side of things? And what we can do is to leverage those technical, say, I'm talking from my own experience, so
Mhm.
technical, outputs that are part of any project anyway, when they're going from one phase to another, how we can leverage those to save you money, and how we can leverage those activities to engage people to buy into what you're doing, right? So that at the end of the project, your benefits are realized. So if you can build that correlation and you can pitch that right at the beginning, that is where you get a buy-in. But again, I'll go back to.
Can I just stop you for a
Yeah.
moment? Because I can see people taking some notes. Can I just ask you to say, what is it that when you're saying linked it straight to how it is people dependent? Can you give us a couple of flavors of examples of people dependency? Because I think that would help the rest of the audience learn from you.
Okay, so in my current project, right, it's a Microsoft implementation project. So they're moving from, one software onto CRM platform, right? So the way I built the dependency on change management is to say that, yes, we can, we can perfectly build the sales optimization project, but are people ready to use this? Have we engaged the people, right? How are we going to engage the people? That is where you need people like us to go and speak to the people, to come up with the strategies, to give you the tools. So even when we talk about change champions, what does it mean to be a change champion, right? I'm on a project with, where 1,500 people are being impacted and in different regions. So can you as an organization train this many people to be change managers or change champions? This is where we can come in and show you how to become and give you the tools to say even your middle level managers to play the part of change champions. So giving them the tools, but then again, it all comes down to the way you pitch yourself, right? If you don't pitch yourself right, you've not sold. So you need to be a salesperson. And for us to be, again, coming from my experience, you need to be part of the pre-sales team. You need to build in your report with them to say, when you sell on projects for any change initiative, you require change for absolutely everything that is going on in the business, right? And and we need to create our own formula of how to connect business benefits to change initiatives.
We do need to create that formula. I've just put one in the bottom there. I don't know if anybody can see that, but as Sadaf was talking, I sort of said, she said, are people ready to use this? So I put up and sort of said, so the answer is no, right? So there's a fallow period. We've developed something, but actually people aren't using it. We haven't that encouragement for adoption of the new ways of working. So in any digital transformation, there you have a new platform that you've invested in, and it's not really being used. So you could say, let's say a fallow period of 3 months, 1/4 of the anticipated annual benefits is lost. And we don't say that normally in change, do we? So I'm hoping that from this, and I'll put it in the write-up, this will give you some ideas of things that we could genuinely start to build in to everything that we say. But that really gets people's attention. Actually, the fallow period is probably going to be a lot greater than that. Or you could argue that it's 6 months for 50% of the staff. Again, that still gives you, 1/4 of the year where we're not earning the benefits. So the benefits are sitting there very clearly. The financial benefits are sitting there really clearly in the business case for whatever the project is. So use them. I think that's the key thing. Use those project benefits. There's a figure. And then go, how could that figure get damaged? How could we lose some of that anticipated benefit by not doing the things that we do? And that's where we claim the value. So perhaps that's a good way of turning things on its head. Do we like that? Does that help? Good little session today as it wraps up the year. Where am I going with this last thing? Okay, I think I've got Tracy coming in. Last comment to Tracy, I think.
I would just agree with you. Yeah, 100%. I think that really is a good way to say it, because you have got the project figure, and just using these little equations here really helps. And our group ended so quickly, but we're starting to get a really good conversation. but it was that same analogy, even though we're talking it in different ways. It was thinking of the benefit and thinking backwards. What are we trying to achieve? How do we work back to, or what are our barriers, or what happens if we're not there? It was all going in that kind of direction when we put this on paper. So just thank you guys. It's been really worthwhile.
That's superb. Thank you. So I'm just going to put up the last piece for everybody to have a look at, which is I know that it's been a tougher market this year for change. I said it in my opening remarks. So what we're putting in, we don't normally do a December session so that Jill and I can have a bit of a break, but we are putting in something. I'm going to be doing a special session which is about helping you do what the in-group, the recruiters that we had in, talked about, which is getting much better at describing our achievements, particularly our LinkedIn profiles, to make yourselves far more marketable. And so I'll be doing a whole session and giving you some practical ideas about how you do that and the things you want to write up. And don't forget, on Monday, we'll be doing the survey results. So if you haven't already, please register for that. Even if you can't attend, there will be, if you register, you will get sent the recording and you'll get sent the report. But if you don't register, then we don't know that you want it and we don't deluge you with loads of stuff. So we do try to finish at 5:02. I've gone a couple of minutes over, but hopefully a useful and energetic session as ever. Yeah. See you for the next one in December.
Thank you.
Really helpful.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Excellent.
Really good.
Thank you very much.
Cheers.
Take care.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you so
Bye-bye.
much.
Take care. Bye-bye.